Jim.
I think we have everybody we're going to get. So I want to call to order the meeting of the Finance Committee for the Town of Halifax. It is 6:02 p.m. on the 24th of February. For the Finance Committee, present are Michael Bennett, Frank Johnston, Ed Bryan, Bill Smith, Mike Rignetta, and myself. Cheryl Burke is away. So we have quorum and we will go ahead and get started. So just a couple of housekeeping items before the meeting starts. This meeting of the Halifax Finance Committee is being recorded by Area 58 for distribution later and public review. Committee members are in attendance with the exception of Cheryl Burke. Roll call vote for any items that will be approved. And two additional pieces. So the first thing is the budget reviews we're going to go over tonight. Is only to review and discuss the department's budgets, and no decisions or votes will be made on them on this specific call. We do have a number of people on from the public, so in order to facilitate any conversations with that, I would ask that the department heads stay on the line, and we will be pulling the public participation agenda item up to be implemented after the third budget review of the police department. So with that said, the first item on our agenda this evening, as a matter of course, is to just go for the acceptance of the meeting minutes from 2/18. They were sent out on that evening after the call. I imagine everyone has had an opportunity to review them. Does anyone have any changes, deletions, or adds that they would like to go through with the meeting minutes?
Look good to me, Jim.
Look good to me.
Very good.
Look good to me.
Have a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote. Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Johnston?
Yes, for meetings on 02/18/2025.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Mr. Bryan?
Jim, I abstain. I was traveling last week.
Roger that. Mr. Rignetta?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well, so the meetings will be approved as written. Okay, so let's get into the meat of our agenda. We are going to be doing several departments tonight: the highway department, the library, and then the police department. So we will start with the highway department. So Steve, I see that you're on and I appreciate you being here. So why don't you go ahead and get us started? Cody, are you gonna, is there something is there a file we're gonna be looking at, or?
I mean, I can pull up the sheets. Everyone should have access in the shared drive. There really shouldn't be changes from there beyond anything discussed with the liaisons. I think what you'll see in all of the budgets tonight is very lean operations, pretty much only increases where it's contractually required. And we've asked everyone to cut kind of where they can. And I think you'll see that tonight. There's one line item when we get to highway that Steve and I can give a little more information on, and that is under the stormwater management, but I'll let Steve get started.
Okay, Steve?
Hello. So like Cody said, there's only a couple contract numbers that I have to go up on. The rest I basically did the level budget. The first one is the where is it? Line 4. I mean Article 4, line 83. It's in for level budget, but that's one of the 10% cuts that you want us to put in for. And do you have the paperwork on all the
you know what? Give me 1 second. I'm going to share the spreadsheet with all the information so everyone's looking at the same thing.
Sure.
Okay. Can everyone see this?
Yep.
Yep.
Got it.
Okay.
You want to start at 77 to go right down it then instead?
I think so, Steve, yeah.
All right, let me find it. All right, well, I can't find mine now. All right, there it is. Line 77 is for the highway surveyor wages salaries,
Mhm.
and that would be the 2% raise, $1,650. Which would make it 84,152.
It's different there than what we're seeing.
So Steve, the salary from last year had gotten reduced at town meeting.
Yeah, I'm going off of the fiscal year 25. And then added the 2% from that.
Okay, I'll have to confirm what that number is. That's different than what I had.
Yeah, because it's showing a 4.8% increase.
Well, that's why I didn't want to show this necessarily. Don't pay attention to that. That's
Okay.
based on what my recommendation is. That's not based on what the department requested. So maybe keep going down the list, Steve. I'll confirm that figure from 25.
All right. The next one is the clerical for highway, number 79. That is a 2% COLA, and that's for total of 56620. Oh, I forgot the $520 longevities in there also. So that's why it came up. It was gonna be 56100, $520 longevity, which came to 56620.
There's also I believe a couple step increases in there. So it's the 2% plus a couple step increases.
Sorry, I didn't put that one on here. I just have the 2%. Sorry.
No, it's okay. This figure in the represents that.
All right, line for where am I at? Wages and personnel. I can't find my paper. I just had it too.
So the next one on this list is clerical, Steve, and I think you only see a 1.2% increase. So contractually, this position is part of the union, but when we budgeted last year, we had budgeted a little more than necessary. We were in negotiations with that specific position with some of the duties that they were going to be responsible for. So we budgeted a little more than we needed because we were within those negotiations. So with that, the increase for this coming year is minimal because compared to last year. So that's why there's only a 1.2% increase there.
And that's the one I was just talking about, the clerical, right?
For clerical, for Kathy's position, yeah.
Yeah. All right, and then the next one is the wages. No, I can't find the number of it.
The line 78 is the total highway wages for all of the workers. Is that correct?
That's what I'm looking for, is the 78.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that represents a 3.4% increase. they're all union down there. They have a settled contract for 2% cost of living adjustment for fiscal year 26. And then there's a few positions in there that have step increases. So that's why it ends up being a little bit higher, because when you average the step and the COLAs in there. So we complete all of these wage line items. We complete, we project out what the actual wages will be for the next fiscal year, and then we input what the actual number is. So this is the actual, what we anticipate, given the contract.
Okay, so line 78 also includes the straight time and overtime wages, is that correct?
Yes, yep, it includes all wages for all of the highway laborers, mechanic, everyone in the highway department minus the surveyor and the clerical staff.
And the overtime is included in that number, correct?
Yes.
And to make it more complicated, that is going to be going down because one of our people with 3 years experience, so he's on step 3, is gone, and I'm in the process of hiring a person that'll be starting at step 1. So that could go down a little bit.
So I'm just curious, how many? So the 2.5% is blanket across all employees. How many are getting steps?
No, 2%, Jim, is a COLA for all employees.
Right. And you said steps.
Yeah, this specific union is on a 6-step system. So anyone who's been there 6 or more years is maxed out and will only get the 2%. And we have, is it 2 or 3 employees, Steve, that would be receiving a step increase?
2.
2, yeah.
And how long's the current CBA in effect?
Fiscal 26 will be the last year.
Okay.
And the 10% cut, which I put in for that, is the part-time, which is 2350, and the full-time position, which would be, the whole thing would change because I after I talked to Cody, I figured out a different way to do this that might help us if we do have to do cuts.
Yeah, so Steve, I wouldn't worry too much about going into detail on the cuts at this point. If ideally just go over kind of what your level service request is within this, and then at a future meeting, if we're looking to have to make cuts, that'll be something we can talk about with the liaisons and stuff. But I don't want to create too much confusion. I think the best bet is run through what your requests are, let the committee ask some questions, and then we can go from there.
Okay. So then that will be the total on that increase, as Cody just said, was the COLA for the contract, which will be 354,552. That's on there. And
so then I think, yeah, your next 3, Steve, your expense, your maintenance, and your equipment, your level funding, so no increases there.
Yes. Everything there is going to be level funded.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we have stormwater management. So this is the one I wanted to talk about. So the stormwater management, this is a requirement of our MS4 permitting. It falls under Steve's department, but we really take a holistic approach from it. We have a team, but a lot of it, the work just falls under the highway department. So the permit, MS4 permit regulations are being updated, and with that, there's going to be some additional requirements. So you see we work with VHB Engineering, and they help us prepare our budget for the fiscal year with this. You can see they came in, they predicted it was going to cost us $182,500. I think some of the work that they've included in the bringing someone else in, we can have the highway department do, but we're still looking at a pretty sizable increase there. So that's the reason for it. And unfortunately, there's really no way around that.
What's driving that increase? What part of the change in the stormwater plan is going to have to be implemented this year?
Is it 2 projects, Steve, that we have to implement in some sort of filters?
Yeah, there's two. One right now that we have it engineered and we have to put in, that's the first project. And the other one is trying to get some filter systems or something near the lakes. And that's where the cost is going to be coming in.
So as part of our permit, we have to do one project a year or one major task a year moving forward. So this is just, yeah, the cost of that. The cost of street sweeping is taken into this. We're fortunate that McDonald Industries takes some of that for us, but it's still just an astronomical cost. You're seeing towns across the state are actually implementing stormwater management enterprise funds, where it's a fee that it's basically a user fee. So residents, based on your lot coverage and contributions to stormwater, are paying a fee because general funds just can't fund it anymore. So we're certainly not in this alone. We're working with VHB to see if we can negotiate better rates for their contributions, but we're looking at other engineering firms, and they're kind of right along those same lines. What they're charging us.
Steve, Frank here. What's going on down at the ponds that you have to put in a stormwater collection system? What are you just talking about? Putting some filter socks in, or what are you talking about? Some screen meshing? What is it?
Well, that's the first, is trying to just get some of the filters like you were just talking about to go into the catch basin itself.
Yeah, you talk about the ones you just drop in and drop the basin back on top of it. And
yes, but the bad part is it takes manpower. Now we're gonna have to clean those more often, because once those socks get full, now it'll be plugged up and going into the lake. So we have to empty those more often.
that's something that your crews can do, correct?
Yes.
We don't have to pay a contractor to do that?
Nope. That's one of the things. We can just pull the filter out, dump it in our truck, and then put it in a contaminated pile out back.
Yeah, and then just drop a new filter in and put the catch basin back on top, correct?
Yes, but that's just like a temporary. We're gonna have to have this whole. I don't know where we'll get the money for that, but to re-engineer that whole basic street, because we can't have the water running off the roads into the ponds, and that's what we have there. So that's a future thing, not right now, but that's going to be an expensive undertaking when we have to do that.
Yeah, well, that and being part of a state highway system, shouldn't they be contributing to that as well?
You'd think so, but it's just a state numbered road. They don't help with our roads. It's not like Route 80 in Kingston. They do all the work on that. Or Route 3A going through Kingston. It's just, we have a state numbered road. That's all it is.
So I think any other questions on the stormwater management before Steve moves on to snow and ice?
No, not for me.
So snow and ice, Steve, you've level funded.
Level funded snow and ice.
And then the next one, so street lights, this one was a small increase, only because if you look at what we actually expended in 24, we went over budget. We've since brought our electricity rates down a little bit, but there needs to be an increase here to cover that. And then the traffic lights, tree warden salary, tree maintenance, and insect and pest control are all level funded. There any questions for Steve on his budget?
On the highway?
Yeah, on the highway, but then we can move on to cemetery.
Just a curious question, Cody. So barn maintenance, I'm presuming that is indicative of Steve and his crews taking care of their storage facility. Wouldn't that be under the buildings department for the town?
Well, under this specific highway department, they have a separate line item. It's just historically been funded that way.
Yeah, we use that for like when we do the catch basins. I mean the drains and everything inside the barn. We pay for that out of that budget line item, and then if we have some minor things we can fix, we use that money to do that, so we don't have to go through building maintenance.
So, okay, so I guess I understand that, but it's building maintenance, right?
They do yes, they do the majority of the work. It's just like I said, if there's something that I don't know, they're real busy all the time. We will have if a door needs to be replaced, or if we need to paint a wall, something happened on that's what we use that money for.
I see. So and Steve, just correct me if I'm wrong, or is it just they just can't get you on the schedule quickly enough to get it done? That's why it remains here?
No, it's one of those things that's always been there, and we continue to do that.
Yes.
It's just easier, especially if it's something minor that we can just do a quick paint or fix. Then it's a lot easier than having to leave it.
I see. So, okay, probably more. I'll just have some follow-up questions on that, Steve, at a later point. So,
anything else on the highway line items?
No.
All right, Steve, you want to move into cemetery? So the superintendent salary, this is so even though Steve's position as highway surveyor is elected, the cemetery superintendent is appointed by the Board of Selectmen. You may recall at our wage and personnel meeting, we're recommending a 2% COLA. You guys haven't taken action on that yet, but this reflects that if that's something you guys end up recommending. So a $243 increase there. And then the same with the wages, it's just a 2% COLA. This is a union position. And then supplies and equipment, Steve has level funded it.
And that's it.
Once again, the cemetery wages are inclusive of overtime.
Yeah.
What was that?
Your cemetery wages, Steve, they're inclusive of overtime as well? Or is that just straight time wages?
Straight time wages.
No overtime on the cemetery work, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the overtime wages are on the bottom. You can see it, the $2,000. Oh, you don't have the same paper. Sorry.
So Frank, yes, that line item does include overtime wages.
Okay, so the 71,600 is inclusive of overtime wages?
Yes.
Why would we have overtime wages in the cemetery?
They have a lot of burials on Saturdays. And when we have burials on Saturdays, depends on the kind of burial it is. If it's a cremation, we'll have one person here. If it's A regular burial, we'll have 2. And if it's one of the double deep sections, we need 3 people because that's a deep hole. And we don't want anybody getting hurt.
Any questions on any of the cemetery items for Steve?
I really hate to ask this, but how many of each classification have you had this year, Steve?
How many what?
How many of each burial type have you had so far this fiscal year?
Oh, crap. I don't have that paperwork in front of me, but I can tell you last month we were at least, I think it was 9 burials just in December before Christmas. I think we average about 26, 27 burials a year.
Okay.
So two burials a month on average.
Yeah.
And of those, how many are actually on a Saturday where we would have to expend overtime?
Oh, I really, there's no rhyme or reason how that works. It's just some people want to be buried on Saturdays, and I've never figured out how many Saturdays. If you want me to, we can figure that one out.
Well, the reason I ask is because we have overtime wages to do it on a Saturday versus a Monday through Friday.
Right. But if it, like, say that's another thing. Some people come in, they want to be buried at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We get out at 3, and sometimes they go over the 3, so there'll be an hour of overtime right there, or a half hour, depending on how long they go with their service.
Right. So would you say it's more straight time versus overtime then?
Oh yeah, I believe so. Like I said, that the overtime, it's not as much as it used to be. It used to be almost a lot of Saturdays. Now there's sporadic Saturday burials.
So how is it that so far this year you are over budget on your cemetery part-time wages?
Oh, that was when we had 2 summer kid help, and we went a little bit over on that because they were helping basically with the ball fields a lot, and then they'd work in the cemetery.
They were helping with the ball fields?
Yeah, that's under us also.
That's not under youth and rec?
Nope. You'd think it would, but it's not. We have all the ball fields, all the soccer fields, all the lawns around the building, any basketball courts like off the 36.
And that gets charged to the cemetery?
That's who does all the work. We have the lawnmower and stuff through there, yes. We do around the school, everything around the school.
Steve, I thought those part-time wages fell under the highway
No.
for the mowing and stuff.
No, that's been under the cemetery.
You should sweep that into the highway.
Yeah, we should look at that. I wasn't aware of that.
Cody, wait a minute. You're right. I gotta find that one.
We should we don't have to do that tonight, but we should
We need
circle
to
back
we
around.
need to look at that. Yeah, Frank, you're right.
Yeah. Just kind of see how we're balancing that,
That's part of it's coming out of that. But yeah, the part-time wages, that's the recycle driver. He works for us 2 days a week. And that's where that money comes from.
From the cemetery as well?
Well, from the highway wages, part-time. I went back to see when Cody said that about the part-time. And that money is in the contract with the union that we have the recycle driver comes up here Monday and Fridays for 8 hours a day.
We can look at it and
Yeah.
whatever the amount is that falls under cemetery, we'll keep in cemetery. And whatever the amount falls under the fields and stuff, we'll move over to highway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would recommend that.
All right, so we can talk about that one. I want to circle that one.
All right.
All right, what's next? You guys have anything else on the cemetery? So that's it for the cemetery then. Did you guys want to do the what was it? The solid waste, the recycle, because Sue isn't here. She does a lot of the work on that.
Yeah, let's take a run at it.
Okay.
So recycling office clerical, we're putting in a 2% COLA, but know that this position is one of the ones that is part of the new collective bargain, the new union. We have not settled a contract with them yet for fiscal 26. So there is this is likely to change because they did not get a COLA. Non-union personnel did not get a COLA for the current fiscal year. So this number is up in the air. Once we have figures on that, we'll let everyone know. So you can kind of ignore the clerical line item.
So do we, just a quick question on that, Cody. I guess we anticipate having that CBA done before July 1st?
Well, it would actually have to be done before town meeting because we'd have to have the amounts to appropriate.
Right.
I'm not really sure. We've had one negotiation meeting, and I really have no clue if it'll be done or not.
Okay. And I think from our previous conversation, you said there's only like 10 employees who aren't going to be in a union.
Yeah, around there. Might be closer to the 15 to 20 range.
Okay.
But ultimately, our department heads, our COA van drivers, recycling center staff, with the, yeah, that pretty much, and then some stipended positions. So like youth and rec, veteran services, those types of positions. But as far as kind of full-time positions to the town, it falls into that yeah, like 15 range.
Thank you.
The recycling center wages, this is again, these are non-union. We're expecting a 2% COLA for these. One of the reasons for the larger increase is to cover some overtime and coverage there when it's necessary. Sue is looking at this. We may be able to reduce this down a little bit, but we wanted to make sure that we had enough funding in place to cover it. Because sometimes another employee from the town, from highway or building maintenance or so on and so forth, could work it to make sure it's covered, but they typically make a higher rate of pay, so the overtime rate is a little bit higher.
Yeah, that's only usually like a Monday night or a Saturday when we have to fill for that if the guy's out sick.
The expense, again, this is it's a small increase, but a 1.1% increase there. Hazardous waste, this is our hazardous waste day, that makes up this primarily. And then disposal charges, that's level funded. And then the trash collection and disposal, this makes up basically the contract for our solid waste. Per the contract, we go up $5 a ton in our waste for the coming year, and our overall collection costs increases a little bit. We were fortunate where our current year costs are coming in lower than we anticipated. So even with those increases, you're not going on the budget, you're not seeing as much of an increase as we had anticipated because we were very conservative last year in our budgeting, which is kind of helping to ease the increase in the budget for this coming year. So that's why you see Sue had initially requested only a $500 increase, but the trash is real, solid waste is, it's so hit or miss. If you look at our disposal tonnage, there's some weeks where the town is disposing of 11 tons, and then there's some weeks where we have 22 tons. I mean, it's rare that we have that much, but you just don't know. So we wanted to make sure we had flexibility in this. If there's a high volume of trash that we have it budgeted to get rid of it. And this is an enterprise fund, so whatever their costs are covered by their user fees.
So Cody, this number is inclusive of curbside and town facility-wide dumpsters, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. What we do to offset the town usage is that the general fund always makes a contribution towards it. It funds part of the enterprise fund. So if you note on town meeting, we've always put a note, like last year, I think we funded $35,000 with the general fund, and that pays for basically the town's trash usage, because the user shouldn't be paying for the town's trash usage. The general fund should be paying that. So that's how we equate that out. But this amount does include that.
Yeah, so it's all inclusive then.
Yes.
It also includes the transportation costs for the roll-off containers that get used.
Yes.
That's yeah.
Steve, did we do a hazardous waste collection in FY25?
25 we did not. 24 was the last one we did, I believe. Trying to find another town to go in with us.
Yeah,
Makes it a lot easier and cheaper.
right. Can't partner up with the Bridgewaters or Hanover or somebody.
Yeah, we've been trying to get Plimpton or somebody like that that's close next door.
Yeah.
But it hasn't worked out yet.
Do you think we're going to do one this year?
I believe she's trying to plan on one in I don't want to say the date, but I think it's this summer. She wants to try to do one.
Okay.
Any questions? Any other questions on the solid waste enterprise fund?
That's all for me right now.
Okay. I think that's it for you, Steve, right? You don't have anything else?
No, not going for anything.
Okay,
Okay,
good.
Steve, could you just hang on till after we get through the public participation piece in case someone has questions for Mayor?
Yep.
Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. So I think next we have the library. Jean?
Hi. I'm here.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing well, thanks. Thank you for
So
joining.
happy to be here.
Yes, I bet that's true. All right. Let's see if I can grab this file.
So Jean's budget is made up of just 3 line items. We have her director's salary, we have the wages for the remaining library staff, and then her expense account. Again, Jean's position as library director is part of the non-union positions. So we're anticipating a 2% COLA, but there's also a step involved potentially. Now, Jean has announced her retirement, so congratulations to Jean. So Jean will not be here in fiscal 26, but we don't know what we're planning to hire, the next individual at. We're currently involved in that recruitment. So I think it's wise to just leave this where it is. And then if we hire someone before budget's finalized, we can always reduce it. If not, we'll just have some money left over at the end of the year. That'll get certified to free cash. And then the same with her staff. Jean's staff is part of the new union. So this takes into account some steps and longevity, but we don't know what's going to happen with the COLAs or any other potential implications of a contract.
Cody, how many employees are in that library for the union? What's the head count?
We have 7 employees, that's including me, so we have 6 employees.
6 that are going to be part of the new union?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And Jean, the library's open 40 hours a week?
The library currently is open 41 hours a week. We've been open 41 hours a week for as long as I can remember. We are only required to be open 25 hours a week, so I am anticipating to answer some questions on that, which is that's fine.
All right.
And that includes Saturday, Jean?
That does include Saturday. We're open 10 to 2 on Saturday. We are open we close on Saturday for the summertime. We open the Saturday after Labor Day. And in June, typically, we try to close the Saturday after school gets out, so that we're open through June on Saturdays for as long as the school is in session.
Basically, the school session is when the library is open on Saturday.
Yes, and then, but this year they close quite early. They close, I believe that date is like the 13th. So I think we will probably only be open on that first Saturday, which is the book sale. We are always open on that first Saturday in June, because we have a really big fundraiser through the Friends of the Library.
And then Jean, just briefly, if you want to go over your expense budget, this is level funded from last year, but if you want to just give a brief summary to the committee of what that.
So it is level funded from last year. My supplies from last year have gone down a little bit, and that's just because I anticipate my electric bill. I had to put down, I put down 14,100 as I look at my electric bills for this year. I'm still up over about gonna probably be around 14,000, so I didn't want to go down on that at all. I know we're looking into a new electric thing, but I didn't want to base my budget on that. And I have dues, and that's just professional dues, that comes out. So I managed to level fund that, but, at the expense of that, like we had talked about before, in order to stay certified with the state, a library is required to spend 19% of their total budget on materials. And it's just the MBLC saying, we want you to buy materials with the money that the town allocates for you. Because I am open, the amount of hours that I'm open, I can reduce that. I can fill out a form and ask the state if they can reduce that to 16% and still receive the full amount of state aid. So my materials budget reflects that. I do also have network fees. Last year I didn't put I had the network fees, and then I can't remember, we took them out. And I took all my network fees out of my incentive grant, which my incentive grant is money that the state gives me for being certified. And it's about $20,000. It has in the past been about the last 2 or 3 years been about $20,000. I have it all documented. But that's not money that is guaranteed to be that. That is obviously all on the MBLC, and there's a formula, and depends on what the governor gives the MBLC. So that's not just a gimme. It will be something. It's my incentive for staying certified, but I can't count on that. So, I mean,
How much did you get? How much did you get last year?
Last year I got a little over $20,000 in my incentive grant, state aid.
Okay. And that's for improvements to the library?
So I can spend that money how I best see fit.
Okay.
I can spend it on anything. I can spend it on programming. The library has never had a line item for programming. We rely very heavily on the Friends of the Library to fund our programming. Sometimes that doesn't work out. We rely on staff as part of their job to run certain programs. And then if I need printers, or I used to use that for, brand new computers. But I know now my computers are coming out of the
Come out of IT.
Caesar's, the IT budget. But when my printer breaks, when I had to buy, especially, if I have to buy new furniture, new story time furniture, because the old tables are kind of awkward to move. The other part of the incentive grant that we looked at, and I'm still looking at, just didn't want to spend any money until after town meeting, and I know, what my network fees next year are gonna run upwards of $18,000. So
that's for the sales network?
That's for the sales network. So I just wanted to wait until after town meeting, but I have been looking at different things. And a lot of that is the furniture for my, story time programs. I bought the furniture for my new computer center from that. I was looking at, I got an email from a company that does story walks outside the building, which is all part of, my community outreach. So things, but it's things like that. It's necessities that the library has, it's wants that the library has that are not covered in my budget.
Right.
So like I don't have a line item, but you know, if a table breaks or I need better chairs for my, you know, community room or something
Right.
like that.
Sure.
So besides office supplies and electric and dues, everything else comes out of my incentive grant.
Hmm.
And I also, one other thing I want to say is, so I was on a couple of meetings in the sales network. I'm on their budget committee and I'm, you know, part of I go to the membership meetings. And I asked the question on how many libraries as part of their appropriation, how that the town pays for their network fees. And I mean, it was a small sampling, but mostly everybody that I asked said, yes, the town pays, you know, it's in the regular Tammy, it's in what the town appropriates. So I thought that was interesting. So this year I want to kind of get back up there with that, where last year I didn't put that in my budget. So I said, well, thinking we should gradually kind of reach that goal of that. In the past, before all, you know, before last year, what I did was I put, you know, a percentage came out of my budget and a percentage came out of my incentive grant. Most of it coming out of my incentive grant, my network fees. So,
Mhm.
yep.
And the incentive grant, if I'm understanding what you're saying, is you're holding that in like a separate account that's not part of the town budget, correct?
It's part of, you know, yeah, it's part of the town budget, but like it goes into a different account. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's not part of my library budget.
Right.
Yeah, so unlike other state aid, Jim, the library aid has to be directly put aside for the library. It can't be used to like offset the library budget, for instance. So yeah, so so if you look at our cherry sheets, it actually will say how much the library contribution is.
Yeah.
But we always subtract that from our total state aid because we can't use it in our general appropriation from the state.
How
And
much
you
state,
can't use it
how much incentive grant do you have in this account? What's the value of it?
in my account now, I think I have about 40.
40,000.
And I know we've talked about that and but like I said, I'm hesitant during this time to spend that money. Because at $20,000 a whack, and yes, I will get additional state aid as long as I remain certified, but that state aid is a fluent number. So I just thought it was prudent to kind of wait and spend that, you know, wait until after town meeting to see what's happening. The trustees have asked me, and it's part of my long-range plan, to put lockers out front for off hours when the library isn't open. People will be able to pick up their holds. And I looked into that, and that's about anywhere between a $15,000 to $20,000 purchase. So that's on my priority list, but I don't want to, you know, I told the trustee I don't want to make that purchase and commit to that until after town meeting.
But if you have the money, why aren't we spending it? It's been granted to you for the last 2 years and you haven't spent it.
So I've bought some things over the last 2 years. Like I bought that computer furniture and things like that.
Yeah, but you
I
still
just-
have $40,000.
I think
I do.
the build up, so Jean is back to spending it at a regular pace. So this year so far she spent over 24,000 of that. What happened, I think, and Jean, correct me if I'm wrong, is during COVID, there wasn't a lot going on in the libraries. I mean, they were doing a lot of as much as they could, but they weren't spending as much of this grant as they would in normal times. So you had a couple year buildup of that. So it's not that she's not spending the annual amount. I mean, this year alone, she's already spent more than the annual amount is. She spent 24,600 and we got around 22,000. It's just dipping into kind of that little bit of amount that had built up during COVID.
Yeah, because I thought last year we were somewhere in the neighborhood of 80,000 or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And we still have a balance of 40,000.
Right. And with my, my network fees, with that's going to be about 18,000. So yes, I am saying I do have money to spend. I'm saying that I have things that I want and that the board has asked me to spend it on. I just think it's a good idea to wait till after town meeting because state aid is fluid. I anticipate that we're not going down on state aid. But I don't want to leave this building anticipating anything. And so after town meeting, I have quotes and I'll be ready to go.
Gene, it's EJ. I have a quick question for you. So you mentioned earlier, and if I remember the numbers correctly, in order to stay licensed, you have to spend, I think you said 19% of your budget on materials.
Yes.
Okay, and then you're able to get that to reduce down to 16% based on the amount of hours that you're opened.
Yes.
Okay, so two-part question for you. The first is, what do you know by chance what the threshold is for that percentage reduction to remain in place? So in other words, do you have to stay open the 41 hours? Is that valid at 35 hours? What's the cutoff for that?
So I can't, I actually just thought of that question today when I was talking with Ellen from the Board of Trustees, and I was like, oh, what is that threshold? So I
Okay.
can't answer that question directly. I do know that if I go down to my 25 hours, my materials have to go up. So I'm no longer able to, to spend the 16%. So,
Okay.
and the difference there is a little over $11,000 in materials. So that's kind
Yeah.
of a lot of money. It's a lot of
Yeah, and I'm not.
materials, and I would be very happy to put that money back in materials because
Right.
materials are a direct service to the public.
Right, and I'm not implying that the library should reduce hours. I think we have to have a big conversation, at a later date about everything. But it would be really helpful to understand though if there is a trigger threshold for that reduction though, because if we had the ability to reduce 6 hours and still get that 3% reduction, that's helpful, right?
Yes.
So now the second part of my question is if at
And
some point.
just to I will find that information out. I will email tomorrow and forward that information as soon as I can.
Awesome. Thanks, Gene. And then the second part, and I think this is the more important for the community. If for some reason we do have to entertain a reduction in hours for the library at some point, can you sort of talk about what the impacts would be to that for the programming specifically that you do there? I want to get a sense of what reduction means for the programs that you offer to the community.
So our reduction in hours, obviously, we would have to take a good hard look in that. But in order to save money doing that, I would have to reduce my staff if I'm going to reduce my hours. There's no way. And then each staff, I would have to look at the least amount of impact I could have in order to read, on the like where I can help. Like Wednesday nights, we're open till 8. I have programming every Wednesday night. And I have programming on Wednesday mornings. So Wednesdays is kind of a tough day I wouldn't be able to reduce there. Could I reduce on Friday afternoon when there's no programming? Sure. Monday nights used to be a very slow night. I am now booked all through March on Monday night with an author program, a brain, somebody that had a brain injury program. I have a LCC program coming in, and I have a community group coming in. So every Monday night in March and every Wednesday night, I'm booked in the community room.
Okay. So it's at least fair to say though, if reductions need to come into a conversation, there's a way to look at that without having too much of an impact on the programming.
Depending upon how, yes,
Yeah. Okay. All right. Great.
absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you, Gene. I appreciate it.
And I just want to, I don't know if this is the time for all the statistical information that I forwarded earlier. So in FY 24, the library held 379 programs throughout that whole year, with the total attendance of 3,589 people. Already in FY 25 through January, we've held 225 programs with a total attendance of 2,473. So we're right on track to be to have, and these numbers I have to report to the state. Community room uses 359 in FY 24, and in FY 25, it's 240 already through January. So, and just another tidbit on building attendance. Now, yes, this is a figure. It's based on a people counter. You know, the accuracy is there's a margin of error here. But in FY 24, I had 28,249 people into the building, and already I've had 18,135 into the building. And I keep track of this on a month-to-month basis because after years of doing the ERIS report, I know the questions that they're going to ask. So it saves me a lot of time if I keep track of this stuff on a monthly basis. But yes, the community impact on closing the library, I would imagine, would be programming. It would be staff hours.
Do you have those numbers classed, Gene? Like students versus students of the elementary school versus students from other schools, parents from the students?
So I know, so I know that, so these programming numbers, on my ERIS report, I do separate that. I didn't, for the sake of this, separate those because I didn't want to be like really confusing. But there's like children's programming, which is all story times, and those are morning programs. And then there's, programs for adults. The YAs are tough to get in here. We try. That's always kind of a low number, but so these attendance numbers that I gave you were just a combination.
Okay.
And there's also community programs, like so for all ages, like, LCC grants that come in, or I have the senior singers coming in March, use the room on a Saturday. My Saturdays are getting very busy with programming. At least, 3 out of 4 Saturdays have programs. So all of those very many programs would be affected. But
Okay.
so my one other thing is I have my community outreach, which is visits to the school, visits to the middle school when they're talking about summer reading books. and things like that. It's social community action, holding STEM programs or kindergarten readiness programs during the summertime. So for my community outreach, in FY24, I had 22, and already through January this year, I have 17, with a total attendance in FY24 of 341, and already 132. And yes, I understand it's not an exact science, but we do the best we can in counting numbers. So, but yes, I will get that information as far as how many hours I can close, not to mess up that material waiver.
So if I understand correctly, the 16% would go back to 19% if you were only open 25 hours a week.
Yes.
Okay.
And I have, so my materials budget now is 60,600. If I have to go back up to 19%, the difference, it would be 71,941. So a difference of over $11,000 that I'm gonna have to try to find in my already bare bones expense budget.
Yeah, and Jim, I just think we would need to look at the holistic view of the financial impacts of the reduction, right? So there's the staffing piece, but what other savings amount within any type of hours reduction, and balance that off between the 16 and 19%.
Yeah, no, I agree. We have to have a much broader conversation.
Thank you, Gene. That was impressive with all the numbers you had handy there. We appreciate that.
You're welcome. My pleasure. I love to come to finance committee meetings.
All right. So those are the only 3 line items, Cody, right?
That's it.
For the library?
Yes, yep.
Okay. All right, Gene, thanks. So just hang on for a few minutes. Really appreciate it, and appreciate all the effort you put into this.
Thank you, Gene.
Welcome.
So I think our third department is the police department. Chief, I believe you're on.
I am. Thank you very much for having me tonight. Saving the worst for last, I see. That's good. Okay, so Cody's doing his stuff. All right, so first is line item 44. That's contractual. That's the wage and salaries for the deputy chief and my salary. Combined increase of 4.4%.
Combined, so you're adding up both you and the deputy chief?
That's correct. As of a couple years ago, they've combined the salaries on this line. So that's
so
the combined.
Is it 4.4, meaning 2.2 per person, or one is
no?
more?
They're just from last year's.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
It's just a combined overall increase of 4.4.
Yep. Line item 45 is the wages. So the wages are actually decreased from last year of 8.5%. That's due to the fact mainly that 2 of our most senior officers retired last year. So that helps us quite a bit. Wages part-time. It's we've budgeted about 10,000 the last couple of years. We only have 2 special police officers right now that work overtime, and so they fill in for shifts at a lower rate, so it actually benefits the town. But that number, can be adjusted. The overtime wages The average for the last 3 years for overtime was 245, 034. So we're requesting 225, which is level funded from last year. So obviously, we have the shifts to backfill. We have the backfill of the training when guys go to training. Like to keep that number, about where it is right now, to be able to meet our requirements to the town. The other stuff is all level funded. The only thing I just want to bring up your attention is the wages for unused sick buyback. So that's a contractual obligation. But in the past, it's basically a bonus for the officers that don't take sick time. What happens is, I don't think we've ever paid that bonus off. So again, it'd be something that the finance committee could look at when it's doing their analysis. So that's $19,792 that contractually, if everyone reported to work every day that they were supposed to at the end of the year, that's how much we'd be paying off for sick buyback incentive for the officers. You guys have any questions on that before I move on to the next page?
No.
Okay. I think it's training. So our training is level funded again.
Oh, Chief, when we met, we had talked about increasing that to 12.
On the training?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, when I'm meeting with Cody and Cheryl, we're looking at increasing it up to 12. So basically, we're spending less than $1,000 per officer. We have 15 officers that have at the 10 training. Post mandates are putting a real burden on us to meet those training needs. The officers have to get a certain level of certifications, and so we have to send them to the training, and obviously that costs costs money. One class could be $400 in tuition, and so basically our training budget is made up of the tuition, and then some supplies, and then whatever we have left over, we try to spend on our ammunition for our yearly qualifications. The state requires us to qualify twice a year. So we have to budget for that those amounts of monies for the ammo. Obviously, things have gone up on that. So that was kind of one of the reasons why we tried to increase it. We're asking to increase it to 12,000.
We've also been very fortunate in when we've needed to recruit. We've been able to recruit officers that have already been to the Municipal Police Training Academy. But we don't know that may not continue. And if we have to send somebody, I think I was just reading today that MPTC was proposing to increase their fee from like $3,000 to like $6,000. So so we have to take that into consideration, where we've been very fortunate, but there's certainly a shortage of police officers around the country, particularly pulling from one department to another. So if we had to send somebody to an academy, which is a very real possibility, that's $6,000 potentially right there. There's half of your training budget. So we just want to make sure we're cognizant of that.
So you mean an academy like the new recruit class, like a 6-month academy?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
That doesn't include equipment either. So,
Right.
No, that's just for tuition.
yep.
And do we pay wages on that, Chief, for the guys and gals to go through the classes while they're doing that?
Yes. Yeah, they pay. It's a step one police officer wage.
Yep.
While they're in the academy.
Yeah.
line item 47 is a clerical line item. So that's wage and salary and longevity. And she is going to be a member of that union, that clerical union that Cody spoke about. This amount, 57910, reflects the 2% COLA for 26. Because again, she was a member of the wage and personnel, didn't get any COLA at the last town meeting. And again, it's they're going to be negotiating a contract, so that figure could change, as Cody spoke about. And she is entitled to a longevity of $750. Again, I don't know if that's one of the items that they're negotiating. So obviously that could also change. So that whole entire amount could increase depending on negotiations. Expense account. All right. So my expense account, again, is level funded. So the higher amounts that we've been budgeting for is basically my internet service and data processing line. That's probably a third of my 70,000 that I have to budget for that. Office the recruit expense first issue, unless we're sending somebody to the academy, I wouldn't be really dipping into that. And also we're gonna start using the postage at which is a minimal amount, but we're gonna start using the postage machine at the town hall. So that should.
I thought we were doing that already. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Chief, but Cody, I thought last year we pulled all postage from all departments and put it in one line item.
Well, we did for the major departments. Police is so there's a couple departments that are so small, like $50, $100, where they may have to, run out and send something certified or something like that. What we're doing at the town hall is like everything that would go through a postage machine, just in, standard first class mail. But there could be things like if we have to send something certified, that wouldn't be in that account. That would come out of a departmental account. If we needed to send something FedEx or UPS, that would be postage. That would have to come out of an expense account in a department.
All right. Thank you.
You.
Good, Chief. I apologize for interrupting.
That's okay. And then, so my other three items that are costly is the dues, subscriptions, and memberships, publications that we have to pay for our licensing and all that other stuff, and just office supplies, stuff like that. As we all know, the office supplies are going, keep going up and stuff like that. So we're going to try to keep it at the 70. Obviously, if it comes to crunch time, we might be able to move some numbers around and make some further cuts. But it is very razor thin. I mean, I think 70,000 for my expense. I think we've been at 70 since I think fiscal 19. So quite a number of years that it hasn't increased at all. And obviously, everything else comes out of my expense account for the operating of the department.
Okay.
Station maintenance. So station maintenance, we with the meeting with Cody and Cheryl, we're asking to increase it by 1,000 because of the electrical cost. So right now, we average about $2,200 the last 12 months. And in fiscal 24, the actual that we spent on electricity was $23,176. So, our request was 20,000. Obviously, but now we're increasing to 21. I know that the town is in the discussions with Brockton to try to get some electrical credits, and I think Cody's also doing some other negotiating with other companies and stuff to try to keep our electricity at a decent rate. So hopefully that 21,000 will cover it for fiscal 27.
Keith or Cody even probably on this
Sorry,
question, but
26.
is there so that increase, that $1,000 increase for electric down at the police station, is that consistent with the rate of increase that we're doing for other departments for electricity?
Yeah, it is. We made some increases last year in some departments, and we looked at based on trends. We didn't increase in some. So like police was one we didn't increase. And then when we actually looked at the data from the actuals of 24, we probably should have. You can see we went over. So when we're looking at usage, the increase is there. So it's on par with the other departments. There's other things we're taking into account too, where we're putting in some energy efficiency equipment that may use more electricity, but less like oil, for instance. So when we get to like the town hall budgets, you'll see our electricity increase is a larger percentage than like a police department. But then we're reducing oil because we put in some efficient heat pumps and things like that. And that's actually a small example at the police station. We're putting in a new heat pump in one of the offices. So we got to take those things into account.
Okay, yeah, and I'm actually asking because it looked low to me compared to others. So I just want to make sure that we're not under budgeting
Yeah,
out of the gate.
no, I think we're good because if you look at fiscal 24, about 3/4 of the year, or maybe even a little more, we were paying a higher rate. We hadn't contracted for the lower rate we're paying now. So just right there is probably like almost 10% reduction in what we're going to pay just in our contracted rate this year compared to fiscal 24. So yeah, I think we're good. And then, like I said, with the heat pump alone, just the fact that we're replacing it with a new efficient heat pump for the one that compared to the one that was there, we should see some savings.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Cody.
Continuing on, our last is the line item 50, which is the cruiser maintenance. So that's level funded at 13,000. I'm sorry, that's an yeah. So so we're gonna maintain it at 13,000. Obviously, one of the articles that I'm going to put forward at town meeting is going to be to continue our cruiser replacement plan of the 2 cruisers per year. If that doesn't get passed, or if finance, if the finance committee decides that they can only purchase 1 cruiser, then we might have to increase this. We've had kind of a run of some maintenance issues recently with some of our cruisers. It's almost like every week, one of the cruisers is down for whatever reason. We've been fortunate; they're all under warranty, so the work is not costing us that much. But if we're extending out these cruisers, more than 3 years, then we're going to be running into some higher costs to repair them. The other thing too, I think finance committee is aware of is one of the articles that also we're going to put forward is going to be for the police boat. So that's going to be in an article, but obviously, and part of the article is going to be an amount for maintenance and supplies to have that vessel on the water if the town residents decide to approve it at town meeting. But obviously, we got to put it forward. I'd be remiss if I didn't put it forward, since the town was very clear on type of enforcement they wanted on the lakes, and obviously we need a vessel to be out there to conduct that enforcement. Other than that, it's kind of bare bone budget. If anybody has any questions, that I can.
Cody, have we heard back from the AG on the permit on the lake for jet skis?
No, we haven't.
Chief, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to mention that the articles that the chief are mentioning are part of our capital planning process. So
Right.
Capital Planning Committee is meeting Thursday, actually. We'll start reviewing those and meeting with departments the following meeting. So not everything that everyone presents is going to make it to town meeting, right? Capital Planning Committee is going to review and say, these are the things we recommend. So if you, for instance, don't see a boat on the capital plan for town meeting, it's quite likely that the capital planning committee says, we have a lot of other capital needs, and spending $150,000 on a boat doesn't make sense, because we can't present more items for town meeting than we have funding for, right? So
Right.
even if town meeting votes it down, we can't present 10 things for $5 million if we only have 1.5 million, for instance. So that's what capital planning will do to work those things down and make a presentation. But the chief is planning to get all that submitted and has submitted most of that for capital planning to review. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Chief, Frank here, Frank Johnston. Chief, if you do get a boat to town meeting, where is the training cost for and the equipment cost? Because I know we've talked in the past about, they have to have certain flotation devices, which have to be also be Kevlar, whatever that is,
Yeah.
and also training to operate the boat and all that. Where would that money come from?
So all that is being budgeted in the article. We've calculated all those recurring costs and the setup costs to get the boat out there for the first year.
And that boat would also include the trailer and that cost as well.
Right, it's the trailer, the boat, the training, the equipment, like you mentioned the flotation devices for the officers that are going to be out there, and all that. So that's all incorporated in the amount that's going to be on the article.
And that includes the light kits and all that for it.
Correct.
But what about mobilization of it? Do we have the vehicle capability to mobilize that?
Right. So any one of our cruisers will be able to tow that boat.
Okay.
We're not asking for 70, 80 foot.
No Miami Vice cigar boats.
No.
So we don't have to purchase a vehicle that can move the boat around. The cruisers
No, we do not.
And or the pickup truck could do that.
Right. That's correct.
Okay.
So, Chief, I want to kind of reverse engineer where we're at right now. If the boat doesn't make it to town meeting on the ballot and doesn't go through for enforcement on the lakes, what impacts does that have to you from a staffing standpoint? Because I'm assuming, based on the article from the winter or the fall, we've got to have some enforcement out there, right? And then there was also something with registration processing where that may come into a manpower issue as well. So how does all that affect things aside from the vessel?
So obviously we would have to budget for overtime to have the officers out there on weekends, or if like I think the town this past year did like a police detail there. So it would be an overtime for a personnel thing, and then obviously, again, personnel at the station to be able to be here when the residents come in to apply for their permits. So yeah, it would be a staffing thing. It'd be an overtime
Okay.
that we would have to work on.
Now, does any of that live in the budget right now as we're seeing it today?
No. So
Okay.
we'd have to make do what we have now in the budget currently.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure we understood that. Thanks, Chief.
You're welcome.
Chief, one more thing on the boat. So is that required 2 officer minimum on the boat?
I would require 2 officers, yeah, for officer safety, for everyone's safety. To have one officer obviously would be operating the boat. The other officer would be doing interaction, interdiction, and enforcement out on the lake. So it'd be 2 officers per shift.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Chief, just to ask the same question again, the 2 officers per boat, I guess, how is the budget written that we're looking at right now? Is it including the vessel going through or not?
It's level funded, so it's
Okay.
It's not including the operation of that vessel.
Okay, and then any of the articles at town meeting going to reflect personnel costs?
So the article that is being put forward will have personnel costs, training, and supplies.
Just as a note, that can only be a 1 year thing. We probably shouldn't even do it in year one. You don't typically use capital funds to fund operating costs. So we could probably allow it for the first year. Let's say if Chief says it's going to cost $150,000 this year to get the boat training, so on and so forth. That would cover us this year, but then next year you'd have to add that into the police budget.
Right,
to
that would go into the operating
cost
budget,
at least.
Right.
So yeah, and it probably, if we weren't in the kind of difficult financial situation that we were now, we would break it out this year and say, okay, what are those operational costs? Include that in the operating budget this year, and just the boat and equipment in the capital. But there's just nowhere to do it.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because we don't even know if we're going to make it to that point.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Cool.
All right.
Jim, I believe a couple of people have their hands up. I'm not sure if you see them.
No, I do see him, sir. Thank you
Okay.
for that.
You're welcome.
Just wanted to make sure that anyone from the finance committee had anything else for the police chief and the police budget.
I just,
Jim, I'm sorry. Just
No.
one last, I'm sorry, excuse me. The only other thing that it's kind of outside of my department, but I'm responsible for is the ACO, but that's a contractual thing, and I think Cody can speak to that. So that's negotiated with a private contractor for a certain amount. So that's so basically his salary comes out of we do the turnover for his salary, but that's a contractual with a private contractor that the town gets in.
And we split that, right?
No, it's just we don't split it with anybody. It's our cost.
So we're paying for the entire salary for the animal control officer?
That's correct.
Well, no, we pay the town's full share, but we use a contractor. Yeah, so this isn't an employee of the town,
Right.
and then the same contractor does it for East Bridgewater as well.
Okay.
But they just charge us a fee, and they provide the service.
So we're just paying a contract value.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Is the same contractor going to be taking the new contract again when it expires?
We haven't had that discussion yet. We're working on that. We were able to work with the contractor last year, and he presented no increase. He level funded it, so we'll be speaking with him again to see what the service level is, call volume, and what would make sense for us and them.
Also on that, Cody, is that contract on our fiscal year now, or is he still on the calendar for December 31st?
No, it's fiscal year.
It's fiscal, yeah, because originally I think it was December 31st or something. The first generation of the contract. Okay. And you've allocated a little extra money for that, an increase, is that correct?
In our internal budget, that's a working document, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're in negotiations still with him.
Right, okay. Chief, do we use that quite a bit?
Yeah, I mean we have we've had a lot of calls. I mean recently, obviously with the waterfowl, last year with the bears. So we do use them quite a bit. I could get you numbers. I don't have them. Actually, I can get them for you if you want them.
No, I don't need a count. I just wanted off the top of your head. So we do utilize that contract.
Yes.
And we utilize it more than just domestic animals.
Right. He does. He'll respond to basically to wildlife, to domestic animals. Anything. And if it's something like it's wildlife, they'll make some recommendations. Obviously, they're not. But yeah, so pretty much the whole myriad of animals out there.
And what about the? You mentioned the waterfowl. Did he respond to any of that, or how did that get managed?
He responded, and then he reports out to the state, and I believe they're making some arrangements once the ponds thaw out, that
Yeah.
actually going to go out there in canoes or kayaks and try to retrieve some of the dead animals.
Right. Okay. So he's part of that then as well under his
Yes.
contract?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Chief, does he, if you have like a deer gets struck, does he euthanize the deer or you guys do that?
No, we'll do that. He doesn't have a firearm. We'll do that, and then we'll contact highway, or he'll contact highway, and they'll, in case if it's a large deer, the highway will give him a hand, disposing of it. But we'll euthanize the animals.
Okay. All right. Anyone else?
The only other thing that falls under Chief Shavs and Chief Witham is our dispatch. We pay annual $200,000 to the Rock. That's been the same for the past few years. We were anticipating an increase this year, but they've been able to keep it the same, which is excellent news for us. So that's level funded as well.
Excellent. Good news. Thank you for that, Cody. All right. Anyone else from the Finance Committee have anything for the chief?
Thanks, Chief.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chief. We appreciate the work you do every day and the effort you put into the budget. All right. So we will close out the budget review session for these three departments, and we will move on to the public participation part of our agenda. So I will, let's start with what's on my screen as first. So Ellen, you're the first one in the top of the line with your hand up. So please go ahead. Can't hear you.
Mute.
You're on mute, yeah.
There we go. I'm a trustee of the library, Ellen Snow, on West 106 South Street. And I just wanted to underscore a couple of things. I've been a library director myself in West Bridgewater and a trustee here before, and also worked for 25 years in the library, in the field of the library. And one of the things I wanted to underscore that Jean told you, she's presenting us level funded budget already to you. And the idea of cutting hours, we looked at that a little bit, and even cutting a few hours, we're mostly a part-time staff, so you're cutting back from frequently a part-time job to even smaller part-time jobs. So staffing, it would put, it would be kind of put us in a questionable position in terms of maintaining staff. And the other big thing I wanted to mention, which I don't think she really brought up, was even when there's no programming in the library, you've got kids coming off the Silver Lake bus after school, because we're right on the Silver Lake bus line. They get off the bus at the library, they get tutored, they read, they do their homework. So I know we're looking at some tough times for the school, and I just wanted to remind people that the public library is a safe after-school place for kids to come. And they get a lot of homework tutoring done. They do their own homework. They read, they socialize with their friends. So even cutting back hours, like the town has been so used to having the number of hours we have already, I just am wondering, I just think it would be good to remember that that the damage to the services to the town might be greater than the small amount of money you might end up saving by cutting hours. That was my basic point. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Appreciate your input. So I also have on my screen, Erica, you have your hand up, so the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you. Erica Rossini, 6 Deer Run Road. I have questions for each department. For the highway department, what year was 58 repaved over by the lakes?
Which section would you like to know? That was done in four different sections we did that.
So you were just talking about how the catch basins were gonna have to be changed over to have like the meshing. And I know that area had recently been done. I didn't know what year though.
Oh yeah, we did that, yeah.
Is everybody else getting an echo?
Yeah, Steve, you got a lot of echo there.
What was that?
I think if everyone can make sure they're muted, if you're not talking, I think it's catching it into someone else's speaker, causing an echo.
The lake, that section was done in 2019, and another section was done in 2018 at the beginning of the 58. But at that time, we didn't have all these regulations with the stormwater. It was just starting, and we didn't know, or they didn't really tell us exactly what the plans were. They're just going through the motions of getting the whole stormwater developed to the town.
Okay. My other
But
question.
even if they did, would have to. We still didn't have the money to do what we really have to do to that road.
I guess I'm gonna not ask the questions for highway since is echoing. The library.
Hey, Erica, I'm here.
Hi. Just a couple of questions. If the hours, I think this was already discussed, but if the hours were cut, we would still be certified as long as we were over 25 hours.
So we can cut our hours all the way down to 25 hours and still remain certified.
Okay.
When we do that, currently we're asking for a waiver. So my materials budget, what I've budgeted for materials is $60,600. If I go back to cutting to 25 hours, in order to receive full state aid, I will have to bring that material budget up to 19% of my TAMI, of my overall budget. So the difference, a 16% materials on the budget that I'm submitting is $60,582.08. A 19% of my budget would be $71,941.22. So that's over an $11,000 difference that I would have to put in my materials budget.
Got it. My other question is, when do you learn what you're getting in that grant? You were talking about the grant that you get that it's like
my incentive grant? Yeah.
Yes. When do you learn what you get? What month?
So we learned that my first payment comes in, it depends, it's different on every library, and it kind of depends on like when you get your ARIS report submitted. But in the past, it's the first payment comes in November, and the second payment is due here in April.
Okay.
So I learned that it's after October and then sometime around November.
Okay. And then my other question was, has the library ever thought of, in order to like raise fees, and I don't even know if it would even go into your budget line, but if you did something like processing passports. I know that I've gone to get my passport renewed. I've paid a fee, and it's almost like assist you with doing that. Is that something the library would ever think of doing just to raise additional funds?
So I'm not sure, and maybe Cody can answer that. answer that question. I'm not sure where those funds would go to and if it can go into my budget. So the thing with your Tammy is that has to be what the town appropriates out of their budget. So the MBLC is actually saying, this is what the town has to give you. And you can raise all kinds of money. The Friends can support your programming. The Friends can sponsor this. You can raise money by passports I get, which I'm not really sure where that money would go to, but it wouldn't go towards my Tammy.
Got it.
To my appropriation.
Okay. Okay. I think that's it. That's all I have for you. And then just two questions for the police.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, would the fees that we're charging for the, that was just passed for the lake, would that money, the fee money go towards the maintenance or the line items for the boat?
Cody can help me with this one, but I think the fees would have to go into the general fund.
Okay.
And then be distributed that way. I don't think the police department in itself can take custody of those fees individually.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct, Chief.
And then of that article, what is the total of that article that you're putting forward for the boat and the training and the lifeguard stuff?
Yep. Hold on. So the cost of the boat is $56,000. The personnel would be one-time cost of $10,500, then annually $18,693. The utilities would be $2,000, supplies $500, and others, which would mean the the life jackets and all the other stuff, and the other miscellaneous items would be $4,000. So altogether, it would be the article itself it'd be 56 plus $66,000, something like that.
Looks like I have 75 here, Chief, for
Okay.
Everything.
All right,
fiscal
yeah.
26
Kind of
request.
rounded off 75,000, yeah.
All right. Thank you for all your answers.
You welcome.
And is Steve, can you try to come back on and see if it's not echoey?
Yep, how's that?
That's Steve.
Right.
Is it echoing?
Kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
You need to, so Steve, when you're talking, when you're answering, you should probably turn down the volume on your speaker.
Okay, let's try this again. For the recycle center, how much fees were brought in for, like, when you get rid of your mattress or a TV or anything like that? How much funds was brought in?
That I'd have to ask Sue about. She's not here. I don't have that paperwork with me at this meeting. Sorry.
Okay, and then of the funds for the maintenance on the barn, the 13,500, what are some of the maintenance items that you already have that need to be done?
If you're talking maintenance for the town barn, that is we use the money for. We have to get the all the floor drains. We have them cleaned out and washed out every year. Sometimes twice a year. That's I think it is 3,000 each time. And then we use the rest if we have, like I was saying earlier, something breaks, not a major issue, and we can fix it. We fix it instead of having building maintenance do it.
All right, thank you. Appreciate everybody.
All right, thank you, Erica. Appreciate the questions. Next up, we have Mary. You have your hand up. The floor is yours.
Mary, you're on mute.
Sorry. I just had a question about, Mary Gravenese, 98 Clydo Bosworth. Can you hear me? Oh, it's not working. Hold
We
on.
can hear you, Mary. We
can
can
hear
hear
you,
you.
okay.
Mary.
I just had a question about the highway department and projects that they've put in for articles in the previous years, asking for money for certain things. And then by the time they purchase it, like last year, I know Steve had said the bucket truck or the backhoe they wanted was $25,000 less. What are they supposed to do with that money?
Are you talking about the dump truck or the backhoe?
Yes.
The backhoe, we're still in the process of buying the sweeper attachment for that. And the dump truck, the small dump truck, that one was
Steve, I can't understand anything you're saying. I'm sorry.
so if you want, you can call me tomorrow.
I think my question is, if we approve an article for a backhoe as you present it, and it's say $100,000, and we give you $100,000, and you find that what you want only comes to $75,000, shouldn't that $25,000 be returned to the town immediately instead of kept by the highway department to purchase something else for that backhoe or other machine?
So it does now. Steve, could you mute yourself? There we go. So it does, the way it is going forward, Mary, is it does. The backhoe, for instance, when Steve got a proposal, it included several attachments. It wasn't just a bare bones backhoe. There are certain attachments that he gets quotes for because that's what he needs to do the job. So the sweeper is maybe one of them, or whatever the attachments could be. And Steve could probably give you more information on the specifics of those. And it's certainly not uncommon that the backhoe itself may come in initially, and then you have to order, an attachment for it. But if it happens, if something comes in under budget, the article gets closed out at the end of the fiscal year, and then that money gets recertified in free cash again the following year. So free cash is a reoccurring thing. So you see our free cash is, let's say, $1.5 million this year. That likely isn't all from our undesignated fund balance of the current fiscal year. A lot of that is things that have closed out from prior fiscal years that just continue to grow and grow. But the state law doesn't allow, if it's not within the scope of what town meeting approved, it can't be, the funds can't be utilized for it. So, and that we go through a purchase order process, our accounting process, treasurer's process to make sure that it matches what the appropriation was for. And there are some times where we reject and say, nope, that wasn't what town meeting approved. That's beyond the scope of what town meeting approved.
Who rejects that when it comes in? Because I think it was last year or the year before that we approved this backhoe for however much it was, and it ended up being 25,000 less. When is the time limit of when you get it, or when you get that the amount of money that it's going to cost and what you buy it? And then how long does he have to say, oh, well, this ended up, well, there's got to be a time limit.
Yeah, so we typically, at the end of the fiscal year, we look at all of the articles, and if there's things that are open, we touch base with the department heads. What's the status of this? If it's something that you've already spent some money on, maybe there is a reason that it needs to stay open, right? If it's a building project, or if it's a police cruiser, right? The cruiser maybe comes in, but then we need to outfit it, and you're in the middle of that process. So that could be an example of why it would need to be carried over year to year. And if the project's done with, if you've gotten everything you need, then we're gonna close it out and send the money back. If it's something there's been a delay where you haven't spent any money, what's going on? Why has there been a delay? do you need this still? And what's your plan to make sure that this is getting done and getting ordered?
Right.
So we certainly are looking at those through the accountant's office and my office on an annual basis. We've gotten a lot better over the past few years. We're still working to clean some things up from the past, but you can't apply a policy with a set time frame to every single project because they're just so different. Projects are just so different. You know,
Oh,
police
I 100%
cruisers.
agree. But like the other situation, like the fence around the town barn, they put in for that, they got the money, and then they didn't need to use it because an abutter or somebody else put the fence up, and now they want to use the money for a gate. I don't really think that's what the town wanted.
So no, what happened with the fence was there was a need for the fence, but then the town started investigating putting solar on the landfill. And if we're going to lease out the land for solar, a requirement of that contract would be that the solar vendor put the fence on, so we wouldn't necessarily have to use the town funds. We're still negotiating that contract, but the fence was inclusive of a gate for that area as well. But that wouldn't be something on the solar vendor. That would be something on the town to do the gate, because the gate would directly abut the highway barn. So that's the reason for that one, and why that wasn't done, because Steve didn't want to utilize the town's funds if there was an alternative where a solar developer could include that in a contract.
Right. I just feel like some of the stuff should be, if they ask for the town meeting to us, I think as townspeople, it means it's an immediate need. I understand with the police boat and as much as it is expensive, but we've had some major life loss over on the lake. So the boat thing is one of those pressing needs that I think the police station is doing their due diligence to keep the community safe. I think like something like that, where a fence and you say, oh, now we don't need this, however many thousands of dollars, let's give it back to the town till we figure out what it is we do need, instead of using that money and setting it aside and freezing it for a project we don't know what we're going to need.
I know we can push that.
Is that crazy?
Am I working? Can you hear me now?
No.
No.
Anyway, those are my questions. That's all I had. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mary. Appreciate the questions and the feedback. Okay. So anyone else from the public wish to ask any questions of the Finance Committee or any of the department heads, since they're here on the phone? All right. Okay. Going once. Going twice. All right, we will close out the public participation part of our meeting. So I want to thank all the department heads for being on and reviewing their budgets. Again, thank you for the work you put in to get the budget ready for review by the Finance Committee. You can certainly stick around if you wish. If you don't want to stick around, you're certainly welcome to leave at any point in time. So far as the public.
You're not going to tell me twice. Bye.
No.
Good night, Gene.
Right,
Thank you.
Good
Thanks,
night.
Gene.
Have a great day.
Okay, you too. And for the public, thank you for joining and thank you for your feedback. We certainly welcome all public commentary on these calls that we have weekly. So moving on from that, we'll move to our next line item, which would be the FY26 budget liaison updates. So I don't believe there are any, as we're in the middle of all the reviews, unless anybody's had any ancillary meetings, which I don't believe they have had at this point. So I will make sure that this isn't on the next one. So committee liaison updates. Again, as I said last week, we did meet as the zoning bylaw committee last week to review a couple of the bylaws that we have gone over. I think we have one or two outlying changes, but most of everything that was done, we made a few amendments in the meeting. And they are currently with the town attorney getting fixed at this point, but I believe that that's kind of where we're at with that. I'm on the government study committee. So we also met last week and we're kind of going through a discussion with all the town departments regarding, where they're at, how their department works functionally and just getting a better understanding of the structure. So this week or last week, we met with the town clerk, the treasurer collector, the town accountant, and the principal assessor. We have another meeting set up for the 6th of March with some more individuals from the town offices to talk about their departments. So that is just currently, we're kind of hitting our full stride here at this point with talking to the town departments. Cody, you have anything to add? You're there at those meetings.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head.
All right. Correspondence and as may arise. So Frank, thank you for sending that email out that went into your junk file. I looked at my junk file and that email was in there also. So it was just we had an individual from the town send an email. Where is that? I will send this out to the rest of the committee so you guys have a copy of what we've got. So the email came from Julia Whalen. She says that she is a lifelong resident of Halifax, a graduate of Halifax Elementary School, and a teacher of 5 years in a nearby district. She's writing because she was appalled and deeply concerned with the budget cuts being proposed at the Halifax Elementary School. The measures that are currently on the table are not conducive to a safe, supportive learning environment. Incredibly large class sizes and removal of supports and termination of specials is not what the children of Halifax need. I worry for the future of the Halifax Elementary School staff and students. The proposed plan sounds extremely unrealistic, given the fact that the school is already operating at a bare minimum with previous cuts. I am asking you to please do everything in your power to find an alternative way to fix this situation. Thank you for your time and consideration, Julia Whalen. And I will forward this to everybody now. So I think we're all well aware of the school committee's requests of us. We're also well aware of how much budget and dollars that we have at our disposal to fund these. It's going to be a tough year. That's really all I can say. Cody, did Silver Lake get their E&D certified yet?
Not that I'm aware of, but it was school vacation week last week.
Oh, okay.
A lot of the administrators were out, so I haven't heard.
Okay.
Jim,
Okay.
can I just add to your response there, Jim?
Absolutely, sir.
The only thing that I can say is that there's been a lot of work between a lot of departments to do everything that can be done to avoid the cuts that were mentioned in the email. And I think that remains everyone's goal. And it's important to realize that the responsibility of the group that's here and the school committee is to put forth a plan to the town as to what achieves that goal. It's up to the town to vote that plan through, right? So we are 100% committed to finding a way to reach that goal, but there are going to need to be sacrifices along the way. And it's up to the town and the community as a whole to decide whether or not they agree or disagree with those decisions. So that's the only, I just want to make sure that people aren't thinking that we are making the recommendations because of the situation and just saying, okay,
Right.
this is the way it is, right? So I just wanted to clarify that point.
No, I think it's a good point, EJ, and I think just to kind of dovetail into, what you were saying is along with the levy limit, plus new growth and plus probably a few other categories, and that gives the town the dollars that they can spend on services. And yeah, I believe, and this is just my opinion, unless I'm mistaken, it's all about trade-offs at this point. So the town has to not do something to do something else to move money around based on the dollars that we have. So, and yeah, I think we need to be deliberate in these decisions. And try to present the best possible scenario to the town residents for them to vote on.
Thanks, Jim.
bring up good points, so thank you for that. Okay, so that's the only correspondence I got. Cody, I don't know if you got anything else other than that. Anybody have anything for As May Arise? Anything you want to discuss with the Finance Committee while we're on the phone? Okay, so next meeting planning. So next meeting planning will be March 3rd. That'll be in person at Town Hall. Cody, who do we have for budgets coming in for that Monday?
Just the fire department.
Okay. All right. Very good. Okie doke. Fire department. Third.
And then the plan is to try to do another joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen on the 25th of March.
Perfect.
At that point, I'm hopeful that we kind of need a final budget at that point. So the idea would be to share, or budgets, I should say, right? One would be an override budget, one would be a non-override budget, share those with the board, just walk through those, and then if there needs to be adjustments, do that, but really would like to have a final budget at that meeting on the 25th.
Okay.
Will a decision be made at that meeting, Cody, regarding the override?
I hope so. I hope we have a pretty good idea at that point. So that's when we put a tentative calendar together, and that's the goal, is to vote the budget then, and then the final warrant gets voted on I think it's the 11th, that second Tuesday in April. Let's see. Yeah, the 11th is when the final warrant gets voted. So you need to know pretty much on the 25th what the budget looks like.
Cody, given that time frame, I know we had talked about doing some public meetings.
Yes.
What would that time frame look like would that be between the 25th and the
town meeting? Yeah. Yep. So the public meetings will be based on the budgets that's being recommended and printed in the warrant. So we'll do our due diligence in between final budget recommendation and town meeting, because that's when we'll know what the budgets are going to look like. We just don't want to jump the gun too much, because we want to make sure we're presenting what people are actually going to see at town meeting.
Right. So sometime in April.
Yeah, the goal would probably be later portion of April to do a couple of those meetings.
Yeah, it's a short window coming up here on town meeting.
Yep.
All right. So that's the next meeting planning. Anybody have anything else for that agenda item? All right. Hearing none, I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, roll call vote. Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes, to adjourn, please.
Mr. Bryan,
Yes, to adjourn.
thank you, sir. Mr. Smith,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Rignetta,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. Meeting is adjourned, 8:10 p.m.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Night.
Night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.